conference the next. Oh, thank you. Darcy got me. She caught me. She came in just to make sure that I didn't forget to press the record button, which I did. Yes. Okay. Good. So I went to this conference and they gave me 12 minutes to do a presentation on 24 years of our program with 3 minutes for questions. And I got it in on time because I set my presentation on stun and really had to rip through it. So I figured, well, I'm going to give this presentation to the group, but I'm going to expand it. So instead of it being 32 slides in 12 minutes, it's now something like 84 slides and probably is going to take an hour. But feel free, by the way, at any point, if you want to chime in, you can unmute, you can do whatever. If your dog is in the background, then later on, go ahead and remute so we don't have to hear yipping and yapping and stuff. But feel free to chime in at any time. This is what we're going to do. And I assume that everybody can see the screen. I'm on share. So here we go with 24 years of Spat. And this was an original slide from I think 2001, where we were talking about when people were trying to figure out what we were up to. And actually I've edited a little bit differently because when we started Spat in 2000, everyone got 2,000 oysters, which they had to give back 50% that we would plant. And that lasted about a year or two before I realized this is not working. The reason why it wasn't working is a couple reasons. We were giving out seed remarkably small, and people were getting 2,000, and they'd switch to the next gear size, and half of them would fall through, so they'd end up with 1,000. And at the end of the season, they'd have maybe 1,000 or something, and they say, "Do I have to give half back?" And it's like, "No, just keep them." So we stopped that whole approach to it. And I'm glad I did for a couple reasons. The biggest reason I'm glad I stopped doing that is not saying that there's anything wrong with free planting oysters, which, by the way, before I started Spat, I was running the hatchery to grow seed, put all of it in the bays for stock enhancement for everyone to go. And I'm not saying that it's always crab chow and hardly any of it makes it. That wouldn't be a fair statement. But I will say that nurturing them in captivity the whole time, knowing that they're your stock, is a much more impactful way of stabilizing shellfish populations, because everybody's oysters are their own protected spawner sanctuary. So I think the approach to it, a lot of people say, well, how many oysters did you plant in the bay? Well, we don't plant oysters in the bay. We culture oysters in the bay, and we nurture them, and we take care of them. And they're going to spawn, and they're going to create habitat, and they're going to do all the ecosystem services that they do that everybody knows about. But it just seems to be, in my opinion, a really good approach to restoration work. Because some people might say to you, well, you're not doing restoration work, you're just growing oysters to eat. Well, no, that's not really what we're doing. We are restoring populations a different way. And so here, that changed a little bit, this growing 1,000 oysters, but learning how to culture, that's been a dynamic part of our program all of these years. And a lot of people grow at their own docks. And I would love to do, our I think it was our second year, we did a poll of why people were Spat members. You remember that, Otto? Did you?
Yep, sure do.
So, in this poll, it was a whole big questionnaire that went out. That went out to everybody, and it asked why do you do this? Are you doing it to grow oysters to eat? Are you doing it because you want to learn new things? Or blah blah blah. And eating oysters was the lowest on the list. And I think helping the environment and learning new things and staying vibrant and active are always on top. So, you know, that's always been a critical part of the program and will always be. We keep 100%, you know, again, we are one of the only groups in the United States that does that. There are a lot of oyster gardening programs. The biggest ones are all in the Chesapeake. And there have been maybe tens of thousands of gardeners in the Chesapeake, but none of them ever got to keep any oysters. They had to give everything back that got planted. I don't know if anyone saw an article that came out recently about a survey done this year in the Chesapeake that showed the greatest amount of oysters that they've seen in a long time. So their efforts are really starting to take hold. It's taken a long time there because of really mostly disease pressures, I would say, and you know, some other factors, but they're really starting to make, it was a recent article, it was in the last week or so. I'll try to dig it out and I can send it as a link or something, but basically there was some really good success showing down in the Chesapeake area, which is nice.
Kim?
Yes.
Talking about the Chesapeake, I met someone who lives off the Chesapeake Bay near Brackish water. And he's like, can I grow oysters in brackish water? And I'm like, I bet you can.
Oh, well, that was a great answer because that really got you off the hook. I mean, no, but the truth of the matter is, here's how it works down in that area. Some of those areas are remarkably brackish. And there used to be like a protocol for moving oysters from salty water to much fresher water because of disease issues. And so oysters, there's also, and it shouldn't be that anecdotal for me. I don't know why I haven't gotten that kind of a definitive bead on this, but my understanding is that the most prolific seed beds for oysters are in generally more brackish water than saline water. So you can grow them. It depends on when they say brackish. There are times down in the shallow estuaries down south that are close to a lot of influx of fresh water that you can have like pretty close to fresh, and that'll kill oysters. After a rainstorm, if let's say brackish, if you're saying brackish is between say 10 and 15 parts per thousand, after a rainstorm, you might go to 3, and that would be a problem. So, but for the most part, I had one guy, I can't remember his name. If I did, I would definitely call him out on it, who had a swimming pool and he wondered if he could grow oysters in swimming pool. And I said, is it a saltwater pool? No, it's a freshwater pool. Well, no, of course you can't grow your oysters in your swimming pool. Plus your family will probably have a heart attack. And are you chlorinating? I mean, are you swimming in the swimming pool, or are you just abandoning the swimming pool and you want to grow oysters in your swimming pool? If you're going to do that, you can, but it'll have to be salt water. You know, these things will not grow in fresh. And so to answer your question, after all that meandering, it can be tricky because of very rapid changes in the salinity that happen after significant rainfalls. On another note, if you're growing oysters here in the Peconics and around, and you're in a creek that has like what they call freshwater intrusion, so it could be underground seeping of fresh water, it actually makes for a very, very tasty sweet oyster. One area that I know of is Richmond Creek that happens, where you get fresh water that really comes into some of those creeks, and it's not particularly brackish, but it's just a little bit of sweetening up of that water. So, when we started Spat, we were just at our Cedar Beach facility. I had been there, I started work at Cornell in 1995 here at Cedar Beach. And I was running the hatchery for stock enhancement, so growing seed for Southold, for Shelter Island, for Southampton, and all the seed went out to the towns. That was our job. And so in 2000 is when we had it was actually 1999, December, that we had our open house at Cedar Beach to see if it was a good idea to start this Spat program. And the original first year, it was always set up that Cedar Beach would be a community garden area and people that had docks could grow at their docks. And so a lot of the original members were really, it was actually called at the time Suffolk Project and Aquaculture Training, because I figured, well, anybody growing oysters with us is probably going to be from Southold town. I mean, who else would come from anywhere else to do this kind of crazy thing? And so that was the first year. And now after these 24 years, we've got annex in Sag Harbor, an annex at Tiana Bay, where we contract with Mariches Bay, and Betty's on I think Betty's still here. I can see. Yeah, Betty's still here. Betty's still here. She's there she is, and she's my ambassador for Oak Island, which was really we have a whole thing on Oak Island, so I'll save Betty and her whole thing that she did on Oak Island for when it comes up. But so now we've really kind of started to spread way down the island. And we do have people, I have people that live in Manhattan and they come out every 2 weeks. And we've had some people from pretty far away. I think we had one crazy guy that was coming from can't remember, Pennsylvania or something. Everyone has a house or a friend out here and they come out.
One guy came from St. Louis.
Was it St. Louis? It was St. Louis, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it St. Louis? I can't remember his name, but boy, I remember that. You remember better than I do. I don't. So, this is now I am always in a constant. I'm a very terrible record keeper. I'm a terrible historian of myself. I know when I was born, but that's about all I've got going for me. So I do remember the beginnings of Spat, but Tiana Bay, I'm told by Ira, who's been at Tiana Bay since the beginning, that we're going on 15 years, which, boy, it just doesn't seem like we've been there that long. But I do remember what that was all about. I went to a meeting at the Southampton trustee's office, and Joe Tremblay was there. He's from Sag Harbor. He used to own the Bay Burger, and we did open jazz night there every Thursday night. It was really wonderful. So he was at this meeting and we were talking about something or other with the trustees, and Ed Warner said, well, we've got this spot over on Dune Road that maybe you could grow there. And he took me down there and my jaw dropped because it was like, I don't know, 600, 700, 800 feet of dock with a huge parking lot on Dune Road. And he said we could use this facility. So we started, and I guess I'm going to say it was 15 years ago. So it was, 2010 or 2009 or something like that. And I can't remember how many members originally, maybe 20. So we've been there, and now the program, which is it's run through the Southampton Parks and Recreation, is capped at 100 growers, and it sells out every year. So there's Uncle Ira. Look at the size of some of the oysters he's growing there. He loves to be. These are like pets of his. And he keeps them, and he's growing his oysters, and Ira's been with me all that time. It's a big crowd. I used to go. I had a kind of a schedule of when I went. Now I go every Tuesday I'm at Tiana, and we do have 100 growers full, which is nice. We've expanded to have a bunch of equipment. So Bart Burke, who some folks know, built the culling machine that's down there. We got the pressure washers there. We ran our own electric. The town, the reason why the trustees and the town and the Parks and Rec Service really likes us is because we don't ask them for anything. We just do everything ourselves. So, you know, there was talk about them running electric, and they got into, oh, it's going to cost $50,000. And I ran the wire in a day, you know, for a couple $100. I didn't charge them. We ran our own power over there. It's a glorified extension cord. It's not hardwired, so nobody can get hurt. It's, you know, I didn't trench or anything, but we have and we also have a little, it doesn't show here, but sitting right over here now is a little cement mixer, because somebody from Tiana came down to Cedar Beach and saw our cement mixer and said, we gotta have one of those at Tiana. Okay, I'll get you a cement mixer. So we have all the equipment there. I don't run a gas generator anymore, and it's the electric pressure washer. What's funny is you get some members, look at this, they brought their own culling machine. It's this little thing. I just couldn't believe it. It's like, you know, we have a big one right over here. Oh no, I like doing it this way. And she put two oysters in there and tumble them around it. And the winning oyster is, no, it's very cute. That's Mark West's daughter there. So everyone's having fun, and we're doing that. Nice pictures taken. There's Teresa, whose son used to be in the program. He moved, and she's still with us after all these years. And it's very orderly buoy lines. We've gotten rid of the swim noodles. It's now all that is, it looks very festive, but now everything is the commercial black floats. We don't use the swim noodles anymore. And you can see that it's very interesting at low tide. You can practically walk out the whole way. It's so shallow. We also were, we were given this building, which I started to use, but then I kind of surrendered it to the education group because I didn't want to. You know, I'm not trying to sound. I don't know what I'm trying to sound. I'm just going to say it. I don't deal with little kids as much anymore. I deal with all us kind of mature, well-aged students. I did the little kids forever, and it was fine, but there's a whole Cornell group that does youth education. So I surrendered all youth education to them, even the aquaculture stuff. And do I miss it? I can't really say that I do. I do a session down at Tiana once a year with all the 5th graders from West Hampton Beach, and that's fun. But it actually reminds me why I kind of didn't want to do it anymore. But they do a nice job, and they've got so this is an all education facility for them. There are bathrooms for our group too. One day I go to Tiana and I couldn't recognize the beach. It's like, what's that? And these are all horseshoe crabs mating. The whole beach, there were thousands and thousands of them. They literally changed the structure of the beach. And what happens with this beach, this was a big failing on the point of whoever put this riprap in this rocks, and they dumped a whole bunch of sand, and it was a nice beach. And I think the first good storm took all the sand away and just left all this riprap. I don't mind it personally, but it's not that attractive. It does preserve the grounds, but I think when these horseshoe crabs came over in a high tide, they had a bit of a trouble getting across. But they were mating like crazy there. This is crazy, but we got this is a juvenile queen angelfish that was in one of the oyster cages at Tiana. I get spot fin butterflies. I get the tropicals that come in there. It was Ira that thought he said, what are you, smoking something? I come across the Peconic Bridge and I saw a brown pelican one day. And it's like, that was a brown pelican. I feel like I'm in Florida. And I told Ira about it. I was like, what, are you crazy? Yeah, there's no pelicans around here. And then I saw on the news that a whole bunch of people had spotted a brown pelican on Dune Road. So I wasn't crazy. I guess that's global. This is not really climate change. This is what we call a one-way fish. It comes up on the mid-Atlantic drift or the Gulf Stream and rides up the current and comes in our waters in the summer and doesn't have the energy to get back. What a beautiful little fish that was. Oh, look at Oak Island. So Betty's been a member. You've been a member for quite a while before. I can't remember when you started, but it was.
I was gonna say, I think it's been 14 or 15 years.
A long time, wonderful long time. But one year, Betty calls me up and says, can you come up and talk to the residents of Oak Island and maybe get some people interested? And I said something because it's like, Oak Island, where the heck is Oak Island? I look it up and it's like, oh my God, that's way past Riverhead. I never leave Riverhead. And she said something like, well, what can we do to get you up there? Well, maybe you could sign up some members and I'll bring gear and I'll bring seed. And lo and behold, she's like signed up half the island, for God's sake. And we had a great time. I mean, I drove up there. I was with Kimmy and we drove up there in the truck with all this gear. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to drive over to Oak Island and we'll do this thing. And I drive up to this parking lot and there's, there's a moving truck moving sofas onto this little tiny Boston Whaler. I'm thinking, wait a minute, you mean I got to unload all this stuff and put it in that little boat? And we unloaded it, put it in the little boat, went over to the dock, and it was a lot of fun. And it's a remarkable place. When I was looking for pictures of this, there's a really good video on a drone taking shots of Oak Island and all these beautiful boardwalks and all the houses and just very, very amazing place. But now Oak Island is turning into, this, they're really doing a lot of aquaculture there. They're doing a lot of gardening and they want to ramp it up, and we're going to work on that. And it's just a lot of fun because let's face it, if you live on the water like that, you would think you could do something like shellfish gardening. I mean, it's such a home run. So we're talking about maybe, building some reefs or doing some things. And Betty is one of the few people that actually has managed to. So here's some of her group there. Nice shot of the group there. And see, the other beauty of having an ambassador anywhere is that this is what happens. You get your group together, you have some fun, you event it out, maybe have a party, maybe do a barbecue or do some education and dig in. And, if it's not fun, you won't get people to do it. But if you're starting to bond with people and it's a hoot, let's face it, when you start growing oysters, and it's not just on the island, you go off the island, you're talking, well, yeah, I'm an oyster grower. People look at you like you got 3 heads. What do you mean you're growing oysters? And it's great. Let's face it. That's what we all want to be. We want to.
Yeah, and Kim, this photo is that's from the Oak Beach Community Center.
Okay.
So we've been doing our workshops, not just Oak Island, but there are 5 barrier beach communities, which means you get Hatchery, you get Gilgo, West Gilgo. Yeah. And it's a nice way to make people, I told them, I was like, it's better than a book club. And that's all you need to say. And everybody's willing to show up and grow oysters. And we didn't do it this fall, but this spring, because this will be the 2nd year from this group to get together and do like an oyster, oyster show off.
Awesome. I will tell you that I tried to do a book club, but the books just kept getting wet inside the cages there, so we stopped putting the books inside there. It just wasn't working out, no matter what kind of book. So, and that's also there, or is that's also?
That is also there. Yeah.
Great shots, and everybody doing their thing. But Betty, I was going to say, Betty's one of the few people that has actually successfully grown scallops too. So we're trying to, she's my inspiration to keep plugging away at scallops to give to people. But even if it doesn't work out, we got to work on scallops harder and harder. It's tough for me because I've been growing scallops for 33 years and they've always been such a challenge compared to everything else, but we can't abandon them. I thought we were getting, a real, getting ahead of the game from the big scallop restoration. And then this new phenomenon came up in the last 3 and 4 years that is knocking us back again. Not quite the same way. I tell people this, I think I've been telling people this, one person every day for the last months and months and months, because they're always asking about scallops. And I say to them, well, the funny thing about scallops are that right now they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, except for one thing. They're dying 2 months early, but they're overwintering, they're growing, they're spawning, the spawn is taking, everything's glorious, and they die, instead of dying opening day on November 1st, they're dying in September. And so they're doing, for the fishery, it's a meltdown, but for survival of that species, they're doing fine. Because their 18-month life cycle, now it's like a 16-month life cycle. So we're working on it at Cornell in conjunction with Stony Brook. We have a very dynamic shellfish pathologist. We're looking at the genetics there. If you're wondering what the consensus is, it's that it's believed that there's always been a scallop virus that's been in the system and that scallops get. It just wasn't the driving factor in any kind of mass mortality. But unfortunately, the virus is exacerbated by warmer water. So we are getting warmer water. I would have thought that just the warm water on its own was stressing scallops out. So they're working on, there's a subspecies of scallops. Our scallop is Argopecten irradians. And that's not because the scientist was hiccuping. That's just how they do it. Sometimes they repeat. It's like Mercenaria. It's like, wow, that was really innovative of you when you were naming it. I guess Linnaeus is to blame for not coming up with anything but a repeat. But Argopecten irradians being the species, and then the second irradians being the subspecies, which is our Peconic Bay scallop. Down in Florida, you had Argopecten irradians concentricus, which is, you can crossbreed them. They're the same species, it's just a subspecies. And that subspecies is warm water tolerant because they're from the south. So I'm not sure if we've gotten our hands on concentricus and are trying to crossbreed to get some warmer water resistance to it. Because, Florida scallops completely melted down and they never got them back. So it's a little hard to get concentricus, but we are working on different things. And who was I talking to today? I think today, it was Bill Higgins. He said, oh, and I've been getting scallops and I've been, $35 a pound. That's not bad. And they're coming out of Mariches Bay. So people are still scalloping and there's still scallops. So it's not the end of scallops as we know them. It's just not, it's a roller coaster. So we should be growing more and doing more. And we will attempt that again this year.
Kim, I was gonna say ours, when they grow the best when they're in with the oysters.
Yeah.
And the cages where we lose the least or none at all are the ones that I don't check and get covered with seaweed. And like that really loose seaweed. And I think it either keeps them cooler or just happier.
Yeah, well, I I was helping out Matt Ketchum from Peconic Gold. He wrote, and I edited and addendum a grant to look at that phenomenon of growing scallops and oysters together, because bolometrically, that's my only science I do, so bolometrics. That indeed scallops seem to grow better when they're growing with oysters, which is really interesting. And the thought of them being fouled and maybe cooler, I think that's a good possibility too. The only other thing you can really do is have them growing in a deeper part of the water column. But if you don't have deep water, you don't get that luxury to play around with that. But I have a feeling that a lot of the scallops that they find in the Peconic Bay are in deeper water in the summertime, so they are cooled off a little bit. So we'll keep up with that. So Sag Harbor Group, again, started with Joe Tremblay being at that meeting where after they gave us Tiana, Joe said, well, could we have a place in Sag Harbor? And they gave him this is Long Beach, and he gave him this little spot right here in Sag Harbor, and he started the Sag Harbor Oyster Club, and it's still going fine. I mean, there's 17 growers here, and there's more people at their own docks in Sag Harbor. The only very interesting thing, so here, and again, he does his own eventing, and he doesn't invite me, by the way. I'm gonna have to talk to him. I didn't even know this until I looked up their website. It's like, wait a minute. So Oyster Garden cleanup. Oh, no wonder cleanup. I wouldn't have gone to an Oyster Garden cleanup. Got enough oyster cleanup in my life. Gonna do your stuff. There's Joe and his group, and they play around with all kinds of, there's some oyster grow cages, and he's out there doing it. The interesting thing about the Sag Harbor Oyster Club is, and you wouldn't think this would be the case with Sag Harbor being the kind of potentially elite group that they might be, but they're actually like socialists or something there. Everybody that joins and shares all the oysters all the time. So if you come in, you're a new member, and there are all these big oysters, they're still all your oysters, which is really kind of cool. I wouldn't try to pull that off with us. I think we'd have fist fights in the parking lot. Maybe not, but that's what's going on in Sag Harbor. And I commend Joe. And unfortunately, he doesn't own his very cool hip restaurant that he had, because we played a lot of jazz there, and he packed the place every Thursday. You couldn't sit down for jazz night there, and we had a lot of fun. But he's moved on, but he's still doing the oysters. And Darcy and I are going to work on his payment scheme, because we're cashing checks from 2022, right? She told me that today. Kimmy picked them up like just before she retired from Joe. So I got to straighten him out. The courier is no longer in Sag Harbor, but they got all kinds of, they're investing. I didn't give them this gear, so they're investing in some gear, and they're doing okay. And that's fully sanctioned with the Southampton trustees, and so it's a beautiful little spot there on their oysters. And they have parties. You got to have parties. You got to eat some stuff, and you got to do some things. And oops, it's up there. So there's Joe, and there's that's John Landis, who's a really nice fellow, and part of the jazz scene too. So here's another one that I just can't remember how long it's been. Again, another 14 years that I've been working with Mariches Bay Project. And this group runs things very differently. This is Dune Road. And what happens here is that, oh, she's not in this picture, but Laura Fabrizio and Aram Tertugian, it's pronouncing, sorry, Aram, if you watch this, I'll get his name right one of these days. I met them, by the way. The first time I met them, I was doing a job fair at West Hampton Beach, and Laura was like the chief designer of J. Crew, so she was there as a kind of designer and whatnot, and Aram runs an environmental and permitting company, and I met them there, and they became Mariches Bay Project, and they do a lot of education. They have, we supply all of their shellfish for them, so we contract with them, and Laura and I have become good friends. I'm actually playing at her Valentine's Day party on the 8th at Bowie One. Chuck and Jive got invited to play there, so she throws a great party. She's now got a concierge there. I'm there with a group that was sponsored through one of the banks, and she's got her crew there, and there's 4 oyster, they call them farms, we're calling them oyster gardens now. They're like community gardens along Dune Road. And then she runs a bunch of programming with them, and I go there and I show them how to do some of that stuff. They also, we've built them 4 floating upwellers, so they're running floating upwellers where they grow seed, and all the seed goes into sanctioned closed spawner sanctuary beds on Dune Road with the trustees. So they're growing about 700,000 oysters a year through us. It's a lot of, it's the most oysters that I give out is this group, and I don't give them out. That she pays a lot of our bills, so it's been a wonderful partnership. And so this is one of the community gardens, very similar to what we do. We run these rigs there, and you can see how remote everything is. It's quite beautiful. And then there's us, Cedar Beach. This is our main campus, and you know, boy, I've been here since even before 1995, because I came to the North Fork of Long Island in 1984. That's when I started in Southold. I was working for Environment East, and I made some money, and I went back to grad school, and so I left in 89 to go to Rhode Island, and then the first job through grad school was at Cedar Beach, 1995, where I started working. And I remember the Cedar Beach Center. It was a Suffolk Community College annex. They had an electron microscope there. They had what was it? Not Breeze, but Jack Breeze? No, not Jack, but Sid Breeze was I think a professor there and teaching electron microscopy. And they had a lobster hatchery. I remember they had not a lot of lobsters, but they were all blue because they were feeding them blue mussels, and they were all dietetically blue, not genetically blue. And what happened with that, so it looked exactly like a Suffolk Community College, but in Southold on the beach. The same labs, the same everything, same hung ceiling, everything. It looked just like that. And they stopped using it in 1992 because the students didn't want to go all the way out to the sticks of Southold. It was just like, you know, oh, we're not going out there. There's nothing out there. So it just became underutilized, and they abandoned it. And Cornell picked it up in 92 from the county. And so we've been there ever since. So it was pretty new by the time I got there, and it was not new, it was a wreck. It's still, some people would say it's a wreck, but what's also interesting about it is that here's Peconic Bay, Shelter Island would be over here. The statue of the heron is over here, and you come around, and the inlet is here. You go around the bank, and the inlet's here and goes in. And this was all dredged when this college area was built. I don't think it was, oh, maybe it was. Maybe it was literally broken through here and dredged out to have these canals. This might have been closed. I don't know. I'd have to find the records there, but basically, this whole area was kind of sanctioned by Southold. You know what was funny about starting the Spat program? And I guess we have a little time for me to talk about that for a second. I used to go to these conferences, Otto and Armand and a whole bunch of folks. We go to all these conferences, and I went to a bunch of them in South Carolina. We ended up going to Hilton Head, and there was this guy named Wayne Turner, and he was running a program for scallops in the Westport River of Massachusetts. And it was a community-run project to try to get scallops back to the Westport River. And he was very funny, and he was very engaging, and would give these lectures. And I thought, wow, I should do something like that. So one year at Hilton Head, there were all these NOAA fisheries restoration people, and I went up to one of them and I said, you know, if I wrote up a program to do community gardening, you think I could get any sort of restoration grants? Oh, well, try it, blah, blah, blah. And it ended up working out great. We did get in the early onset of Spat, we got a bunch of money to kind of fuel us. And so I went to the town of Southold, the trustees, and actually I think Al Krupski was a trustee and John Holsopple was a trustee. They were kind of buddies, you know, and I went up in front of them and I gave a presentation to them about this program, Spat program, that we wanted to do in Southold. And I laid it all out, how we were going to establish this thing and what we were going to do. And after about 20 minutes, one of the trustees said, well, that's all fine and good, but what's it going to cost us? And I said, it's not going to cost you anything. I'm not asking you for money. I'm just asking you for permission. And they were like, are you kidding me? Of course. You know, you're not asking us for money? Of course, do it. So we had this whole area, like I would say from here, maybe here, all of this closed to shellfishing. Not here, and really not here, but all of this closed to shellfishing to become a community garden. And we've been doing that ever since. And now, because of the way that it blossomed into so many docks and so many parts of town, the DEC has worked with us very well. And as you might know, if you're a new member and you just got your permit for your dock and it came in a day because it was so streamlined online, they really have done us well by making the permitting process for growing at your own dock seriously painless and like takes no time at all. If you check off Spat and you send a picture and it's in certified or seasonal water, you're there and there's no runaround. And so it's really quite excellent. So, you know, we have a lot of facilities here, the hatchery and all these things. I don't like text. Whenever I'm doing slide, I don't like text because obviously you can read it. I'm not going to read down here. It's right there in front of you. You know how to read? Good. Okay. And by the way, this is being recorded, so you can look at this anytime. But there's our Spat Shack. We built this in 2002, I guess. Right at the end of this slide, there's a great shot of Otto in the original pad of the Spat Shack, which was the air conditioning compressors for the building in a chain link fence, which was kind of cool. So we built it. This is now the hot water tank that heats up our water for the conical, so we don't need a heat exchanger. We're doing a spawn next Wednesday. So it's going to be January 31st. That's certainly the earliest spawn that Spat has done autonomously in all these years. We're going to be, we've got our own system. We're going to run it 100% autonomously for this first spawn. And if it all implodes, that's fine too. But, you know, we're hoping that it doesn't. I'll tell you, last year's early spawn we did in the big hatchery, and it totally imploded. We didn't get it, everything died. So it's not about the facility, it's about a lot of different things. So I'm thrilled to be doing this early test. The Valentine's Day spawn is on for the big hatchery, and so we'll be doing that as well 2 weeks later. That's the inside of the hatchery. We built all of this. We maintain all of this. It's looking great. It's all up and running. Everything is in place. This was before we cleaned it up, and it looks pretty good. You know, we've got our microscope with our television camera, our sinks, our filter bags, our pumps, our head tank. Our conicals are there somewhere. There's our conicals, our heaters, and everything you need to grow shellfish. And it's actually pretty cozy. It's still, and it's very derogatory of me calling it the hobo shack, but you know, we should be proud of it because it really is 100% community in everything about it. It's not high tech. We built it all. We did everything ourselves, and it's just fine. And it's very appropriate. This is the kind of thing that you could bring anywhere in the world and have it done. You don't need to have, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and all kinds of elaborate gear to do this. It's very, very straightforward. And we did it. We did it. We didn't call anybody to do it. There's 100% community funded, built, and operated. The only one I would say in the country. And I challenge anybody to tell me that there's another one of these things that exists in this country the way that this one exists, because I've never seen. Oh, we put the guy to work, Otto. Look at you up there doing the spackle work, everything. Jeez, that's just to show you that. And there's Armand who was doing that. There's a little older slide, but you know we get everybody. This was Valentine's Day spawn last year. We will do it again, and we call out some stops. There's Vanessa, our executive director. There's Chris Pickerel, who, by the way, just presented in Washington D.C. about water quality and the whole Peconic. There's a great article that just came out. I'll try to send you the link. You know, we're advocating for us to keep going with the momentum that's going on. Josh, who runs the hatchery there, a couple other folks there. We had a little bit of a party. This was our take, by the way, on our spawn. So first thing you can notice is this dramatic genetic line of this Roseovarus resistant brood stock. And these were the males that spawned. These were the females. We had an excellent spawn, and more female than male, which is good because these ones give off the eggs that will make the larvae. But good genetic mix there, excellent spawn, and beautiful looking oysters. And just to let you know, this batch, these were 2-year-old oysters. The first batch we did were not even one calendar year old oysters. We're trying that again this year as well. So very young oysters, and they give off a good spawn. And there's the crowd, and we're all having fun, and we got the music going and all the things going, and food in the background. This is the Spat algae room, and we're just, it keeps getting better and better every year. And there's Charlie, who's been helping, well, pretty much running the algae room, has gotten a lot of help this year, and he's thrilled that people are interested in learning how and helping out in a positive way, because it's actually tricky to grow algae. I gave it up years ago. It's too much work. I let you guys do it. No, it takes an extreme protocol, and you have to be very diligent with it. and our team is very diligent. And we actually were growing algae, started very early. This is in our office, but that's all of our stock cultures, and they're being very well maintained. This is our brood stock tanks, which are on peristaltic pump auto feeding system. So it's dripping them in, and that's been very successful. So it's a lot of maintenance. It's a lot of work. And that's why many hands make lighter work, because these things have to be cleaned and drained every other day. You have to the protocol to it to keep them from spawning when you don't want them to. And all of this is teachable. Anybody that wants to do any part of this, you're welcome to get involved. There's some of our brood stock that we're using for this year. This is our upweller system that we built for really when the Scallop Project came along, but we basically took it over, and there's our system in there. It's working just fine. All new electric in there. And all the systems are floating upwellers, and we're running 3 still all winter long, which nobody else does, but we've had good luck with it. So we're running these. We'll probably run some more Flupsies this year too. There's Kimmy. Look at, she's on the dock. She's going to become my new Spat indentured servant now that she's retired. She doesn't know that yet. She just found that out. I'll sit in there. She's up there. She is. See, she did know that. Okay, well there. So there's the floating upwellers. Oh, it says Flupsies keep volunteers on their toes. Yeah, that's I remember when that's Roger putting the screen in, kind of a strange way of doing it, or not. Don't keep you on your toes. He's Charles relaxing from his bike ride in, I suppose, or something. But I have to say, one of the prouder moments of design watching the Spat members was when this out of the water floating upweller motor was designed. We kind of stole the idea from Dale Levitt from Woods Hole, who made a solar floating upweller that needed a DC motor that was out of the water. And we kind of changed that to an AC motor and used the same idea. And the prototype of this motor, these floating upwellers normally use an ice eater motor from a company, and they've gotten crazy expensive. There's over $1,000, and they're not very trustworthy. And we build these things for under $1,000 for sure. And our prototype has been running for 5 years. So we've got 3 of these things now. They're unbelievable. And the industry would love these, but don't even have them yet. We kind of, we could patent that, truthfully. We built a solar floating upweller using this concept for Mariches Bay project. They paid for it. They paid for the upgrade. It was a very expensive upgrade because of the batteries. And their first season, it ran great, but they left it there for the winter at this very remote spot. And somebody came along and stole the batteries, which were about $3,000 or $4,000 worth of batteries, and they didn't want to replace them. So that never got used again. But it worked great, and the Spat members built it and documented it, and it was gorgeous. The last couple of years, we've been doing our own remote set Spat on shell. We're going to continue to do that because it is something that, you know, it's not part of the gardening, culturing your own nice single oysters. These are little oysters set on shell, but they're wonderful for planting around the creeks, and we're going to continue to do that because it's another way of just putting more shellfish in the water. These you don't have to tend. You just put them out there, let them grow, and just keep doing it every year. We've also been growing some clams and giving clam seed out and just having people, you know, free plant them. It's not the same as gardening your oysters because you really can't, you know, do much to them but watch them. But it's good to do that. It's good to get people involved. We have about 115 or maybe more gardeners at Cedar Beach, and everyone has their own lines, and we've been struggling to get it more and more orderly, and we're starting to make headway. All of the Tiana oysters come to Cedar Beach in the winter and are on their own buoy line. That's a bit chaotic, but it does work. So we've got our own workshop. It's a very dynamic workshop. The building was built by Morton, but we did, and whenever I say we, I'm grabbing credit where credit is not due. I let the SPAT members, I'm a benevolent dictator. I sit and watch and give comments and give okays and sign the purchase orders off. But people, SPAT membership is about empowering people to do real work, not to be the drones, but to all be the queen bees. And so, the workshop is a dynamic place. It's very orderly, it's well kept, and it does a lot of work. We've built a lot of boats. The original Scallop barge SPAT members built. We built these Gloucester rowing dories, the Bulger work skiffs. We're in the midst of restoring one of our work boats. We have an Eagle Scout that did a bunch of fundraising and is going to do work on the boat. It's going to be prime boat. We just got another trailer for it. We've got a brand new motor for it. We built the nutshell prams, built a lot of boats in our tenure. And people might say, well, why are you building boats? Well, two reasons. We did a lot of fundraising with them originally. And also my feeling was, if you can teach and let people build a boat, they can build just about anything. I mean, boats are tricky. Once you build a boat, building a floating upweller, that's a snap. Building a house, that gets to be simpler too. So it's a good way of honing your skills. Excellent way. Now what we do is we build the little shucking boats, and these things are great. We've moved a lot of these boats. You start to see them all over the place, and we'll continue to do that. And it's good to keep everybody's hand in building these things. And it's been simplified with stitch and glue because of SPAT members that got tired of a funky mold and came up with an entirely new way of building them. And it's wonderful. That's where growth is. Growth isn't just in your oysters, growth is in your brain. Growth is in your soul. Growth is in your participation and your interest. And that's why people come every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all year round. Because it's like going to first you go to the gym, right, Otto? First you go to the gym, then you go to SPAT. So something like that. Here's some of our blue hats here. Not all of them, and not all of them are blue hats, but a blue hat is somebody that is fully vetted. They've gone through background checks. They do all this so that they can be literally docents. You can be on the property, and you're fully covered. The kids can be there, and it covers our liability. But it's also a pride thing. It means you put in the effort to be a little bit above and beyond just showing up and cleaning your oysters. And I like the concept of the blue hat and earning your blue hat. I've had people literally burst into tears when they get their blue hat. I know I never burst into tears because I never got a blue hat. I should anoint myself. But no, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I keep track of blue hats hours, and those go off to the main. Every year we get credited for volunteer hours with the blue hats. And we celebrate a lot. It turns out, I thought we were celebrating a SPAT member. Kimmy told me that this was a cake that the SPAT bought for us when Kimmy and I got married. So I thought it must say congratulations from the SPAT members. I thought we were celebrating a SPAT member, but she is from my SPAT family. So we are a big family. SPAT is a family, and it's very important to have that as part of the whole deal. So every year except for when COVID screwed us up for our SPAT picnic run. It was the one year that we couldn't do our SPAT picnic live. And it's no fun doing it remote, but We've had a lot of great parties every year. And I got this embedded. Let's see if I can run this. This is from last year, let's see if I can run. Here we go. So this is just a little slideshow of we have a new venue now. We're at the Mariches Park, and there's the general brat and the shucking tables, all volunteer, of course, and there's Otto shucking his brats, and you know, it was funny. There's Roxanne helping out with all the swag and the different things, and Josh is helping Otto out with that, and there's Shuck and Jive playing some music for everybody, and a lot of people came out. We had a couple hundred people for the party. It's Charlie looking grim. I don't know. He must have gotten stung by a bee. There were a lot of bees. There's Jeff and the Blue Hats and everybody. And, oh, me grooving on something, some rock and roll, and we went through 1,600 oysters at the party. Here's Kimmy with Otto enjoying food. Josh playing some music there with the band. We love having the band and playing music for everybody, and everyone had a good time. Oh, she looks like she got stung by a bee. Yeah, and there's Paul and then the whole Hawaii crowd. Some swag that was available, I guess, and Roxanne helping out with all that, and the team shucking away and full of smiles. And that's how you learn, by the way. That's a good way of learning how to shuck an oyster. Just come by, shuck oysters for an hour, and you'll know how to shuck oysters. And if you want to learn how to play guitar, you can talk to Dave. And a lot of folks come out, and it's really great to see everybody. I think I got hot though. Was it? Didn't you overheat a little bit on that one? It got hot after a while, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Had to leave early.
Yeah, and a lot of bees. We're gonna have to figure out the bee situation there, because the yellow jackets came out and made it a little bit scary. Oh, look, and bring your bug spray there. That's Darcy putting that in there, I think. But that was our picnic there. So, and some shots of the old venue. And this, I put this one in only because I was so impressed that year I had 3 Grammy award-winning jazz guys up front. Gil Goldstein and Sasha was there, and Mingus band. It wasn't Bob. There was another trombonist from the Mingus band. So we get some people to come out to these things, and everybody gets into it. We're saying goodbye, unfortunately, to Founders Landing, because we outgrew it. They capped how many people could go, and it was way lower than what our turnout is, because everyone has such a great time. Look at that happy face. We did our 12th annual celebration. The great thing about celebration, it happens in first week of December, and it generated it was a good fundraiser, and brings in great funds for not only Spat but also the Back to the Bays program. People really enjoy it. We get a lot of folks that donate oysters, and we had a lot of attendees. This was this year's? I think this was the year before, because we didn't. Maybe it was this year's. I can't remember. But we had a lot. Oh no, it was this year's. Okay, so we had a lot of attendees. That's at Ian's place. Ian, by the way, over at Little Creek, had us Shuck and Jive play the New Year's Eve party and the dropping of the anchor, which was a lot of fun. People came out. And here's the brewery. This wasn't last year, because there was, what's that, the World Cup playing in the background or something. The Jumbotron in the background. That wasn't that year. That was Ian and his group. And the team Otto. Boy, Otto, you're getting a lot of photos. You're very photogenic. All over the place. Every year I get interns. I keep interns coming in. I can't turn interns away. It used to be a little bit bigger of the program. I don't, I don't turn people away, and it's good to have interns, and some of them go on to become professionals, and so I like keeping the intern and student part of it, either in high school level or in college level. We've helped a lot of industry people. I did a presentation for the New Suffolk Association. They were having an oyster thing, and Linda Ariema, who's part of that group, asked me to come and speak, and asked me how many people we've started in the oyster industry. And I'd never really thought about it until I put the list together, and it was 18 people, which is a lot. And what's funny is I didn't even include this guy, Steve Gauger, because I don't think he was ever a Spat member, but we did help him out with the industry. But we've helped a lot of people, and we keep helping all the growers. We helped a lot of the growers during COVID. I'm still working with a lot of the folks now. Peter Stein just bought Karen Rivara's hatchery at Pico Oyster, and so now Eros is maybe still named Eros, but Peter Stein from Pico now owns that. We're helping Matt Ketchum with that grant. I have to reach out to Ben Gonzalez and Dave Daly, because they're looking for a new president for the Long Island Oyster Growers Association, and Ben is a trustee, but he would make a good president of that, I think. So, we stay very networked with everybody, and everybody knows us, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that they give us the respect that Spat really deserves when it comes to industry and whatnot. So that's important to me. Oh, yes, the press comes out. I try to avoid it. We don't really advertise, and I don't do a lot of press, because I really don't. I don't know. It's something about it that just seems maybe I don't know what it is. We like to keep a low profile, so when they come out, I dress appropriately so that they know what you have to stay away. If you're going to go up to a guy that looks like that, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. That's me looking like I normally do in the summer, kind of scraggly, and that's okay with me. But no, it is if we want to do more press, again, this is feedback I could get, and the membership we can get all the press we want. It's almost like, if you ever noticed, I don't do things like yearly fundraising pledge drives and things like that. I don't like to hound anybody. This is supposed to be what you want, not what you feel you're forced to do. And it's been fine all along. And some people, like my executive director, say, you're out of your mind. You haven't raised your price. You lowered your prices on membership instead of raising them. Yeah, because it's not about that. It's about building community and sustainable. It's got to be sustainable. So if you're getting dragged down by it, and you also have to know when you can walk away. We just had a blue hat retire because he's going to concentrate on family. Sent me a very nice note yesterday that he's taking a break, and that's cool. That's how it is, and he's still family. We're all family. So you do it as you do it, because if it's not fun, then it's not fun. Then it's work. And if it's fun, it's not work. It's fun. So, that's how I want to look at it. Here's that slide. Look at that. Oh, it's not Otto, it's me. But that's the old Spat shack. And there was a harvest there. And that's what we want to look forward to. That's also part of it. That's one of the perks, is being able to know that you're eating good, healthy product from your waters that you can be proud of on the one hand, and also feel safe about. And that's a perk. That's the gravy. That's the least important part of it, but it is a part of it, and it's a nice part of it. And so I'm gonna stop sharing. And that was my presentation, but see, I went an hour and 12. I went an hour and 12 minutes. I went an hour over what I was allowed to do in Rhode Island. So if anyone has anything they want to chime in on, it's a good time. And then you get to go eat. I got applesauce going in the kitchen. That's dinner. There's Shelley. Look, everybody's there. And you know, again, we're going to have a great year. I say that every year, and every year it doesn't fail that we get to have a great year. It's a lot of fun. It's imperative that everybody knows that there's no hard sell. There's no died in the dust commitments. It's what you want out of this program. That's what you should get. And you should be demanding when you want to be demanding, and you should be casual when you want to be casual, because that's why we've been around for 24 years. Next year will be our silver anniversary, and we're going to have a special blowout for a silver anniversary. But the reason why is because it's a good place to be. The thing that I've noticed about the program and the community is that when people hear about it, they want a piece of the action. And when they see it, you know, that was what happened literally at the conference. Somebody came up to me and said, "Is there anything that you guys don't do?" And it's like, no, we do everything. Why should there be anything that we don't do? We do it all. Because if somebody comes in, I used to say this early on, that if you're a new member and you come in and I don't know who you are or what your interests are, I'll know, or you will let me know in pretty short order. It might be that you want to learn how to use tools. It might be that you just want to grow better shellfish. It might be that you want to be involved in something else. And then it just unfolds organically, and there's no hard sell. And Otto, my general there, is the true testament. He's not as young as he was when we first met. He was actually, now that I think of it, my age when we first met 24 years ago. He was my age. So I'm about to turn 64, and I'll give it away. Otto is 88, right? Otto, 88?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
he
gonna
was
be
my
89.
age when we met. And so that just thrills me to no end, that not only the friendship part, but the commitment part and the learning part and the tenaciousness of this program that makes you want to just be a part of it. And you know, we're always growing. We're never going backwards, and we don't sit on our laurels either. If you want to come in and experiment with new stuff that we haven't tried, that's what we do. If you just want to relax and just enjoy the water, that's what we do too. So that's why it works. It's not a CSA where you have to put your time in or you don't get your cucumber. You know, you do what you want to do. And if you fail miserably, we'll help you out too there. You know, we can be generous. And so I look forward to the upcoming year. Oh, you know, Eugene's here. And I was just looking at his name on my list and saying, "Oh, how's Eugene doing?" Good, good, good. Everybody's around, and John's there, and John, everybody's showing up for the occasion. We did tape this, so it's always available. Let me know what you want to do. We're in full mode. The hatchery's up and running. If anyone wants to come around for the first spawn, it'll be next Wednesday, and then the Valentine's Day spawn. And we'll get a little. If you don't get emails, let Darcy know, and we'll put you on the email list. And stay connected. Good. Anybody got anything to add, subtract, multiply? Good. Everyone's hungry. Yeah.
Thanks, Kimmy. This is great.
Yes. Excellent. Oh, and there you are, the newest member, Ken, right? Ken?
That's it. Thanks, Kim.
Oh yeah, I got Ken. See, it's not that easy for me to remember everybody's name. So please, if you think I don't know your name, you come up to me and you say, "Hey, it's Ken." Oh yeah, hey Ken, I knew it was Ken. No, I didn't. Yeah.
All good. Thanks.
All good. Thanks. Stay in touch. Get good.
Thanks, Kim.
Cheers, everybody.
Hey,
Thanks, Kim.
all right.
Appreciate it,
Enjoy,
Kim.
everybody.
Bye.
Right.
Thanks for
you.
coming out.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Kim.
Good, good.
Bye, Kim.
Excellent. Thank
I
you.
can't see you
Miles
right
is
now.
there. Miles, Jeff
Hold on.
Victor.
There we
Oh my
go.
gosh, Jeff Victor's
Hold
here.
on.
Everybody's there. Thanks for coming
There
out.
you go. Richie wants to say
Hey,
hi.
Richie's there.
Gotta come in.
Oh, you're in that
I've been
interesting
listening to
little
you while
voice.
we're
Then you're
cooking.
real blurry, and then you come in like there's a skin over there.